Maya had always been the kind of person who believed in second chances. Actually, she believed in third and fourth chances too. For 3 long years, she had been with Daniel, and those years had taught her more about patience than she ever wanted to know. In the beginning, everything felt like a fairy tale. He would surprise her with her favorite coffee, remember the small details about her day, and make her laugh until her stomach hurt. But somewhere along the way, things changed. It happened so slowly that she barely noticed at first. The texts that used to come every hour became once a day, then once every few days. The weekend plans they made together started getting canceled. He always had a reason. Always had an excuse that sounded reasonable enough. Work was busy. His friends needed him. He was tired. And Maya, being the understanding person she was, always said it was okay. She told herself that relationships required compromise, that love meant being patient. But patience has a limit, even for someone like Maya. There were nights when she would sit alone in their apartment, waiting for him to come home, watching the clock tick past midnight. She would hear his key in the door at 2 in the morning, and he would barely look at her before heading straight to bed. She started feeling like a roommate instead of a partner. The conversations that used to last for hours became brief exchanges about bills and groceries. The laughter disappeared. The connection faded. Her friends noticed the change in her. They saw how her smile didn't reach her eyes anymore. They watched her check her phone constantly, hoping for a message that would make her feel valued again. Her best friend told her directly one day over lunch that she deserved better. Her mother, in her gentle way, asked if she was truly happy. Maya defended the relationship every time, making excuses for Daniel just like she had been doing for months. She convinced everyone, including herself, that things would get better. February arrived cold and gray, matching exactly how Maya felt inside. That particular evening started like any other. She came home from work, exhausted, carrying groceries she had picked up on the way. Daniel was already home, sitting on the couch with his phone in his hands. His eyes were glued to the screen, his thumbs moving quickly across the keyboard. Maya called out a greeting. He grunted in response without looking up. She put the groceries away, made dinner, set the table, and called him to eat. He came to the table, still holding his phone, eating with one hand while scrolling with the other. Maya sat across from him, watching this man she had loved for 3 years, and suddenly felt like she was looking at a stranger. She tried to start a conversation, asking about his day. He gave one-word answers. She mentioned something funny that happened at work. He didn't even pretend to listen. The silence between them grew heavier with each passing minute. She looked at her own plate, at the food she had carefully prepared, and realized she had lost her appetite completely. Something shifted in that moment. It wasn't anger that filled her chest, though she had felt plenty of that before. It wasn't sadness either, though tears were close to the surface. It was something else entirely. It was emptiness. A hollow feeling that made her realize she had been running on empty for so long that she had forgotten what fullness felt like. She had given so much of herself trying to save this relationship that she had lost herself in the process. After dinner, Daniel went back to the couch and his phone. Maya stood in the kitchen, washing dishes, and made a decision. Her hands trembled as she dried the last plate. She walked to their bedroom, pulled out a suitcase from under the bed, and started packing. She moved quietly, methodically, choosing only what she absolutely needed. Clothes, toiletries, important documents, a few books. Each item she placed in the suitcase felt like she was packing away a piece of her old life. Daniel didn't notice what she was doing. He was still on the couch when she zipped up the suitcase and carried it to the door. She sat down at the kitchen table and wrote a note. Her hand shook as she tried to find the right words. In the end, she kept it simple. She told him she couldn't do this anymore, that she needed to choose herself for once. She didn't blame him. She didn't ask for explanations. She just said goodbye. Carrying her suitcase down the stairs felt surreal, like she was watching someone else live her life. She loaded it into her car, started the engine, and drove to her parents' house. They welcomed her without questions, just hugs and understanding. That night, Lying in her childhood bedroom, surrounded by old posters and memories from simpler times, Maya stared at the ceiling she knew so well. She had done the right thing. Everyone said so. She knew it in her mind. But her heart felt like it had been left behind in that apartment. Still waiting for Daniel to finally look up from his phone and see her. The first week after leaving was the hardest. Maya woke up every morning reaching for her phone, expecting to see messages from Daniel. Apologies. Explanations. Promises to change. But her screen stayed empty, except for worried texts from friends checking on her. She told everyone she was fine, that she felt relieved, that walking away was the best decision she had ever made. And during the day, when she kept herself busy, she almost believed it. But nights were different. Nights were when the walls she had built around her emotions started to crack. She would lie awake remembering random moments from their relationship. The time he had driven 2 hours in the rain to bring her medicine when she was sick. The morning he had made her breakfast in bed just because it was a Tuesday. The way he used to play with her hair while they watched movies together. These memories felt like betrayals, making her question if she had given up too easily. Her friends rallied around her like protective shields. They took her out for dinners, invited her to movie nights, kept her calendar full so she wouldn't have time to sit alone with her thoughts. They celebrated her courage, telling her how proud they were that she finally left. They shared their own stories of difficult breakups and how much better life became afterward. Maya listened and nodded and smiled, playing the role of someone who was healing. She went back to work after a few days, grateful for the distraction. Her colleagues had heard through the office network that she had broken up with her boyfriend. Some offered sympathy, others shared knowing looks. Her boss, a woman who had always been kind to her, pulled her aside and mentioned a promotion that was opening up. It would mean more responsibility, longer hours, but also better pay and the chance to lead her own team. The old Maya might have hesitated, worried about how a demanding job would affect her relationship. The new Maya said yes, immediately. Throwing herself into work became her primary coping strategy. She arrived early and stayed late. She volunteered for extra projects. She impressed everyone with her dedication and focus. At home, she signed up for yoga classes her friend had been recommending for years. She started going to the gym. She reorganized her childhood room, painted one wall a bright color, bought new bedding. She was doing everything right, following the playbook for moving on after a breakup. But doing everything right didn't stop her from thinking about Daniel constantly. She developed strange habits without meaning to. She would drive past their old favorite restaurant on her way home from work, even though it added 15 minutes to her commute. She would listen to songs they used to play together, torturing herself with memories. She found herself looking for him in crowds, her heart jumping every time she saw someone with similar hair or the same jacket he used to wear. The worst moments came unexpectedly. She would be standing in line at the coffee shop and suddenly remember how Daniel took his coffee, black with 2 sugars. She would be working on a report and see something funny, automatically reaching for her phone to text him before remembering she couldn't anymore. She went shopping for groceries and caught herself picking up his favorite snacks before putting them back with shaking hands. Her body carried memories that her mind was trying desperately to erase. 3 months after leaving, Maya went on her first date. Her coworker had a friend, a nice guy who worked in marketing, and they thought Maya might like him. She agreed mostly to prove to herself that she was ready to move forward. The guy was perfectly pleasant. He was polite, made good conversation, and seemed genuinely interested in getting to know her. But sitting across from him at dinner, Maya felt absolutely nothing. She compared everything about him to Daniel. His laugh wasn't as genuine. His stories weren't as interesting. His eyes didn't light up the same way. She went on a few more dates over the next couple of months, each one feeling like an audition she was failing. One guy talked too much about himself. Another was too eager, texting her constantly after just one meeting. A third seemed perfect on paper, but there was no spark, no chemistry. Maya started wondering if she was broken somehow, if Daniel had damaged her ability to connect with someone new. Her friends told her she just needed more time, that the right person would come along when she was truly ready. But Maya secretly wondered if the problem was that she was still waiting for the wrong person. 5 months after the breakup, Maya thought she was doing better. She had moved out of her parents' house into a small apartment of her own. The promotion at work was going well. She had a routine that kept her stable. She could go whole hours without thinking about Daniel. But then she would see a couple holding hands in the park, or watch a romantic movie with her friends, and the ache would return just as strong as ever. Her heart kept playing tricks on her, reminding her of what she had lost every time she thought she was moving forward. The wedding invitation arrived on a Tuesday. Maya stared at it for a long time, reading the names of two friends who had been together since college. Beautiful cream cardstock with elegant gold lettering. A celebration of love and commitment. And somewhere in the back of her mind, she knew Daniel would be there too. They had mutual friends, lots of them. Avoiding him forever wasn't realistic. She just hadn't expected to face him so soon. For a week, Maya considered not going. She could make up an excuse, say she had to work or wasn't feeling well. But these were good friends. People who had supported her through the breakup. Missing their wedding because of her ex felt wrong. So she decided to go, to prove to herself and everyone else that she had moved on. She went shopping for a new dress, something that made her feel confident and beautiful. She got her hair done. She practiced in the mirror, rehearsing casual expressions for when she inevitably saw Daniel. The day of the wedding arrived bright and sunny. The kind of perfect weather that made everything feel like a movie scene. Maya drove to the venue with her stomach in knots. She kept giving herself pep talks, reminding herself that she was strong, that she had survived worse than seeing an ex at a wedding. She parked her car and took several deep breaths before walking in. The ceremony was beautiful, filled with tears and laughter and promises of forever. Maya found herself crying too, though she couldn't quite identify why. At the reception, she settled at a table with friends who kept her distracted with gossip and jokes. She was actually starting to relax, thinking maybe Daniel hadn't come after all, when she saw him across the room. Her breath caught in her throat. He was standing near the bar, talking to someone she didn't recognize. He looked different somehow. Thinner, maybe. Or just tired. His hair was cut shorter than he used to wear it. He was wearing a suit she had never seen before. For a moment, she couldn't look away, her eyes tracing the familiar shape of him, remembering everything she had been trying so hard to forget. Then he turned and saw her. Their eyes met across the crowded reception hall, and Maya felt like all the air had been sucked out of the room. 6 months of carefully constructed healing crumbled in an instant. He started walking toward her, and she had a wild urge to run. But her friends were watching, and the bride was nearby, and running would make a scene. So she stayed frozen in place, watching him approach, her heart pounding so loudly she was sure everyone could hear it. They exchanged awkward greetings. The kind of polite small talk strangers make at parties. "How have you been?" "Fine." "You look good." "Thanks." "You too." The conversation felt rehearsed and unnatural. He asked about her job, and she told him about the promotion. He congratulated her, said he always knew she would do great things. She asked about his work, and he gave vague answers that told her nothing. They were dancing around everything that mattered, speaking in code, testing the waters. Then a slow song started playing, one of those romantic ballads that every wedding seems to have. Daniel hesitated, then asked if she wanted to dance. Maya knew she should say no. Every logical part of her brain was screaming that dancing with him was a terrible idea, but her mouth said yes before she could stop it. His hand found hers, warm and familiar, and they moved onto the dance floor among the other couples. Dancing with him felt like coming home and losing her way at the same time. His hand on her back was in the same spot it always used to be. They fit together the same way they always had. Maya could smell his cologne, a scent she had once loved and then tried desperately to forget. For 3 minutes, they moved together in silence, and her body remembered everything her mind had been trying to teach it to forget. The way he led when they danced, the rhythm they had always found together, the feeling of being held by someone who once knew her better than anyone. Halfway through the song, Daniel spoke quietly, his words just for her. He told her he had been thinking about her, that he had made mistakes, so many mistakes, that he had started going to therapy after she left, trying to understand why he had pushed her away. He said he wished he had been different, better, when they were together. He told her he regretted everything. Maya listened to words she had desperately wanted to hear 6 months ago, and felt her carefully built walls starting to crack. When the song ended, she pulled away quickly, mumbling something about needing to use the bathroom. She practically ran across the reception hall, her heels clicking loudly on the floor. She locked herself in a bathroom stall and leaned against the door, tears streaming down her face. Her hands were shaking, her chest felt tight. She looked at herself in the mirror once she could breathe again. Mascara smudged, lipstick faded, and whispered to her reflection like a desperate prayer. "Don't go back. Please don't go back. You know how this ends." Maya lasted 2 days before she texted Daniel. Just something simple, thanking him for the conversation at the wedding. He responded within minutes, and suddenly they were texting like no time had passed at all. Quick messages about their days turned into longer conversations about things that mattered. He was different in these texts. More open, more thoughtful. He talked about therapy and what he was learning about himself. He apologized again, more specifically this time, for all the ways he had taken her for granted. Against every piece of advice her logical brain was giving her, Maya agreed to meet him for coffee. Just coffee. Just talking. Just two people who used to know each other catching up. That's what she told herself. That's what she told her friends when they expressed concern. She promised them and herself that she was just being friendly, that there was no danger of falling back into old patterns. She almost believed it. The coffee shop was neutral territory, a place neither of them had been to before. Maya arrived first, ordered tea instead of coffee, because her hands were already shaking enough. Daniel showed up exactly on time, looking nervous in a way she had rarely seen him. They talked for 2 hours, the conversation flowing easily like it used to in the beginning. He told her about changes he was making in his life. She told him about her new apartment and the challenges of her promotion. It felt good, comfortable, safe. One coffee meeting became regular dinners. Every Tuesday, they would meet at a different restaurant and talk. Daniel was making an effort, asking questions about her life, actually listening to the answers. He remembered details from previous conversations. He put his phone away when they were together. All the things that had disappeared in the final year of their relationship were suddenly back. Maya found herself looking forward to Tuesdays more than she wanted to admit. Soon, dinners expanded to weekend activities. They went to a museum together, wandered through exhibits like they used to do when they first started dating. They went for hikes on Sunday mornings, talking about everything and nothing. The physical distance between them gradually decreased. A friendly hug hello became lingering embraces. Walking side by side became hands, occasionally brushing against each other. The chemistry that had drawn them together initially was still there, simmering just below the surface. Late-night phone calls started happening again. Daniel would call her after work, and they would talk until midnight, laughing about random things, sharing hopes and fears. Maya felt herself softening toward him, her heart slowly opening the door she had worked so hard to close. She told herself they were both different now, more mature, more aware. She convinced herself that people could change, that relationships could get second chances and actually work. Her friends noticed the shift and expressed concern. They reminded her gently of how much she had suffered, how long it had taken her to feel okay again. They warned her about falling back into old patterns. But Maya brushed off their worries. This was different, she insisted. Daniel was different. She was different. They had both grown from the experience of being apart. The breakup had taught them what they had lost. And now they appreciated each other more. It sounded good when she said it out loud. Almost believable. For a few weeks, everything felt golden. Maya was happier than she had been in months. The version of Daniel she was spending time with was the version she had fallen in love with 3 years ago. Attentive, thoughtful, present. They laughed together constantly. They made plans for future activities. They talked about dreams and goals. It felt like falling in love all over again. But better this time, because they supposedly knew each other's flaws and were choosing to stay anyway. But slowly, quietly, old patterns started creeping back. It started small. Daniel canceled plans one Tuesday because something came up at work. He apologized profusely, promised to make it up to her, and she said it was fine because she understood that work could be demanding. The following week, he was late to dinner, arriving 40 minutes after they had planned to meet. He had a good reason, something about traffic. And again, Maya said it was fine. She was being understanding, being patient, being the bigger person. His texts started spacing out again. Messages that used to come every few hours became once a day. When they did talk, he seemed distracted. During their phone calls, she could hear him typing in the background, only half listening to what she was saying. Maya felt a familiar knot forming in her stomach, a sense of history repeating itself that she desperately wanted to ignore. The turning point came on a random Tuesday, 3 months after they had reconnected. Maya had been offered an incredible opportunity at work, a chance to transfer to the company's office in another city. It was a promotion, better salary, a chance to lead an important project. It was everything she had been working toward in her career, but it would mean leaving, moving away, starting over in a new place. Her boss needed an answer by the end of the week. Maya's first instinct was to talk to Daniel about it. They weren't officially back together, had never actually defined what they were doing. But she wanted his input on this major life decision. She drove to his apartment that evening without calling first, excited to talk about the opportunity, to hear his thoughts, to maybe discuss whether he would consider coming with her, or if they could try long distance. She parked outside his building, grabbed her phone to text that she was downstairs, and suddenly stopped. Sitting in her car, hand hovering over her phone, Maya realized what she was doing. She was about to make a major career decision based on a relationship that wasn't even a relationship. She was preparing to potentially turn down an amazing opportunity because of a man who couldn't even commit to regular dinner plans. She was shrinking her life again, making herself smaller, limiting her possibilities to accommodate someone who had already proven he couldn't meet her halfway. The realization hit her like cold water. Nothing had actually changed. Daniel hadn't changed. She hadn't changed. They had both just been on their best behavior, trying to recapture something that was never going to work. The patterns were already repeating. The canceled plans, the distraction, the one-sided effort. She had been so desperate to believe in second chances that she had ignored all the warning signs telling her this was a mistake. Maya sat in that car for almost an hour, crying and thinking and finally, truly understanding. Her heart had never learned how to walk away because she had never actually dealt with the loss. She had run from the pain, stayed busy, kept herself distracted, and the moment Daniel showed interest again, she had jumped back in because facing the grief of losing him felt harder than trying one more time. But trying one more time was just delaying the inevitable, prolonging the hurt, preventing her from actually healing. That night, sitting in her car outside Daniel's apartment building, Maya made a different kind of decision. She didn't go upstairs. She didn't text him. She drove home slowly, her vision blurry with tears but her mind clearer than it had been in months. The next morning, she accepted the job transfer. She gave her notice at her current office, started making plans for the move, and told her friends and family about the exciting new opportunity. Most of them were thrilled for her. A few asked about Daniel, and she simply said they had talked and decided it was for the best. She knew she needed to talk to Daniel properly, to actually end things instead of just disappearing. But this time, she wanted to be strong enough to do it right. She spent a few days writing down her thoughts, trying to understand her own patterns, figuring out what she actually needed to say. When she finally called him and asked to meet, her voice was steady. They met at a park, sitting on a bench overlooking a pond where ducks swam in lazy circles. Maya told him about the job, about her decision to take it. She watched his face carefully, looking for disappointment or any sign that he wanted her to stay. He looked surprised but said he was happy for her, that it sounded like a great opportunity, and that response, that easy acceptance of her leaving, told Maya everything she needed to know. He wasn't going to fight for her. He wasn't going to ask her to stay or offer to come with her. He was just going to let her go. Again, like she hadn't really mattered that much in the first place. She told him gently but firmly that they needed to stop seeing each other. Not because she didn't care about him, but because she cared about herself more. She explained that she had realized their relationship was like a comfortable trap, easy to fall back into but ultimately limiting to who she could become. She said she needed space to actually heal this time, not just to distract herself and pretend she was okay. Daniel nodded, said he understood, apologized again for everything. They hugged goodbye, and Maya walked away feeling sad but somehow lighter. The hardest part came next. Maya blocked Daniel's number on her phone, not out of anger or spite, but out of necessity. She knew herself well enough by now to know that if she could reach out to him, she would. If he could text her at a weak moment, she might respond. The only way to truly move forward was to close that door completely. It felt dramatic and final and absolutely necessary. She deleted old photos from her phone, packed away gifts he had given her, removed every reminder of him from her daily life. She also started therapy. Real therapy, with a professional who could help her understand why she kept choosing relationships that hurt her, why she equated love with struggle, why she had such a hard time putting her own needs first. The sessions were difficult, forcing her to examine patterns that went back to childhood, to look at wounds she had been ignoring for years. But slowly, week by week, she started understanding herself better. Maya wrote letters to Daniel that she never sent. Long, honest letters where she poured out everything she felt. Anger at how he had treated her. Sadness for what they had lost. Gratitude for the good times they had shared. Forgiveness for the pain he had caused. And eventually, goodbye. Writing these letters was like releasing pressure from a valve, letting out emotions she had been holding too tightly for too long. She kept them in a journal, private words just for her, a record of her healing process. The months before her move were busy and emotional. Packing up her life, saying goodbye to friends and family, preparing for a new chapter. There were moments when Maya almost reached for her phone to text Daniel, to share something funny or ask his opinion or just hear his voice. But she didn't. She sat with the urge until it passed, learning that she could survive these moments of wanting him, that the feeling would come and go like waves, intense but temporary. The day she drove out of town, heading toward her new city and new life, Maya felt scared and excited and free. She had said her goodbyes, promised to visit, made plans to video call regularly with her closest friends. Her car was packed with everything she owned, and the road ahead was long. She turned on music and drove, watching her old life disappear in the rearview mirror. For the first time in years, she wasn't running from something. She was moving toward something. There was a difference, and she could feel it in her bones. Her new city was overwhelming at first. Different streets, different faces, different rhythms. Maya threw herself into her new job, which was challenging and demanding in the best possible ways. She joined a book club to meet people. She explored the city on weekends, finding favorite coffee shops and parks and quiet corners. She made new friends, slowly, carefully, letting people get to know the real her, instead of performing some version she thought they would like. She went on a few dates, casually, without expectations. None of them turned into anything serious, and that was okay. She thought about Daniel less and less. When memories of him surfaced, they no longer knocked the breath out of her. She could remember the good times without wanting them back. She could acknowledge the love they had shared without needing to return to it. The ache that had lived in her chest for so long gradually faded, replaced by something steadier and more peaceful. She learned to be alone without being lonely. She learned to enjoy her own company. She learned that she was enough, all by herself, without needing someone else to complete her. A year into her new life, Maya met someone at a work conference. They struck up a conversation about a presentation, which turned into coffee, which turned into dinner. This new person was kind and thoughtful, and actually showed up when they said they would. They asked questions and listened to answers. They made plans and kept them. Being with them felt easy, in a way Maya had forgotten relationships could be. There was no drama, no chaos, no wondering where she stood. Just two people genuinely enjoying each other's company, taking things slow, building something real. Maya didn't compare this new person to Daniel. She didn't carry old fears into this new connection. She had done the work, faced her patterns, learned from her mistakes. She knew what she wanted now and what she deserved. She knew the difference between passionate dysfunction and genuine compatibility. And she knew, finally, that her heart had learned what her mind had been trying to teach it all along. Walking away from what hurts you isn't giving up on love. It's making space for the right kind of love to find you. Sometimes late at night, in quiet moments, Maya wondered what Daniel was doing. If he ever thought about her. If he had continued therapy. If he was happy. She hoped he was. She held no bitterness toward him anymore. Just a gentle sadness for two people who had cared about each other but couldn't make it work. She understood now that some relationships come into our lives to teach us lessons, not to last forever. Daniel had taught her about her own strength, about her worth, about what she would and wouldn't accept. He had taught her, in the hardest way possible, how to choose herself. Looking back, Maya could see the whole journey clearly. The first time she walked away, her heart had stayed behind because she hadn't been ready to truly let go. She had been trying to escape pain instead of processing it. But the second time, when she walked away for good, everything was different. She had faced the loss, felt the grief, done the hard work of healing. She had learned that closure doesn't come from another person's apology or explanation. It comes from within, from accepting what was and making peace with it. Her heart finally learned how to walk away not by hardening itself or building walls, but by opening up to genuine healing. And in that healing, she found something better than the love she had lost. She found herself,